What is a reflexive verb? Well, think of it as a mirror. If you look at yourself in the mirror, what are you going to see? Well, you're going to see yourself, right? A reflexive verb is exactly the same thing. A reflexive verb is when the subject of the action, so the person doing the action, is the same as the object of the action. Well, if you're not sure what this means, let's figure it out together in today's video. Ciao a tutti e bentornati sul mio canale. My name is Stefano and I am an Italian teacher. In today's lesson, we're going to talk about reflexive verbs that are very common in Italian. Before we start, don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you don't want to miss any future Italian lesson. So most of the time when we think about reflexive verbs, we're thinking about a verb that expresses the idea of the subject of the action and the object of the action being the same. So for example, if I take the verb lavarsi, that means to wash oneself, I'm basically saying that I'm washing myself. So I'm doing the washing, but I'm also doing that specific action on myself. So I'm both the subject and the object of this specific action. So for example, if I conjugate the verb lavarsi and I say mi lavo, I'm saying that I'm washing myself. And this makes sense. But unfortunately, it's not like that all the time. Sometimes this direct translation of saying myself, yourself doesn't always work. For example, if you take the verb sentire, that means to hear, to listen to, and then you make it reflexive and you say sentirsi, then the meaning of that verb is going to completely change, and it actually means to feel. So as you can understand, that rule doesn't apply all the time. So sometimes we make a verb reflexive in Italian to change its meaning, or we have a verb that is simply reflexive just because it is the way it is. And anyway, no worries because I'm going to give you some practical examples at the end of this video. Now it's time to understand how to conjugate a reflexive verb. A reflexive verb will always end in si in the infinitive. So for example, if you have the verb lavarsi, and you get rid of si, you're left with lavar, so basically lavare, you've got an are verb. So when you conjugate the verb lavarsi, you're just going to conjugate it in the present as you would do it with any other verb, and you would say lavo, lavi, lava, laviamo, lavate, lavano. Same thing applies to the verb mettersi, so you conjugate it as the verb mettere. Or for example, the verb vestirsi, you conjugate it as the verb vestire. But how would I tell the difference between a reflexive verb and a normal verb? Well, that's pretty easy. We need to add a reflexive pronoun in front of it. A reflexive pronoun is basically just a pronoun that makes us understand that we're dealing with a reflexive verb. Sometimes the reflexive pronoun is the translation of myself, yourself, and so on. But of course, the rule doesn't apply all the time, as we saw previously with the verb sentirsi, to feel, and we're going to look at that in a second. The reflexive pronouns are mi for io, ti for tu, si for lui and lei, ci for noi, vi for voi, si for loro. Now let's conjugate the verb lavarsi, to wash oneself, to better understand how this works. Io mi lavo, tu ti lavi, lui lei si lava, noi ci laviamo, voi vi lavate, loro si lavano. Now let's conjugate another verb, the verb mettersi, to put on. As you can see in this case, the verb mettere means to put. But if we say mettersi, so if we make this verb reflexive, it means to put on. So in this case, the idea of myself, yourself doesn't really apply. We're just making this verb reflexive to change its original meaning. So mettere means to put and mettersi means to put on. For example, mi metto le scarpe. I put on my shoes. Now let's see how to conjugate the verb mettersi. Io mi metto, tu ti metti, lui, lei si mette. Noi ci mettiamo, voi vi mettete, loro si mettono. Well, I hope this helps. Now let's look at a few examples to better understand how reflexive verbs work in colloquial Italian. The first verb that I want to talk to you about is svegliarsi. Svegliarsi, to wake up. In this case, the myself, yourself thing, maybe it's gonna work because you wake yourself up. I wake myself up. The verb is reflexive, so we get rid of si and we understand that we have the verb svegliare. So it's an are verb and we're going to conjugate it as a normal are verb. The sentence that I have for you is mi sveglio tutti I giorni alle 7 di mattina. Mi sveglio tutti I giorni alle 7 di mattina. In this case, I'm saying that I wake myself up, so I wake up every day at 7 in the morning. The second verb that I have for you is the verb vestirsi, to get dressed. And with the verb vestirsi, the idea of myself actually works because you are dressing yourself, so you are getting dressed. The sentence is mi vesto in fretta perché sono in ritardo. Mi vesto in fretta perché sono in ritardo. With this sentence, we're saying, I get dressed quickly because I'm late. The third verb that I have for you is chiamarsi. Now, this is a very interesting verb because the normal version of this verb, so chiamare, actually means to call someone on the phone, for example. But if we make the same verb reflexive and we have chiamarsi, then it means to be called. My name is. Think about it. I'm sure you know how to introduce yourself and how to say your name in Italian. We say mi chiamo Stefano. Mi chiamo Stefano. I am called Stefano. My name is Stefano. Maybe you've never realized, but the verb chiamarsi is actually the reflexive version of chiamare, and it means to be called. My name is. So that's why when we're asking somebody's name, we say come ti chiami. That ti there is a reflexive pronoun. Or for example, come si chiamano. What's their name? And the si there again is a reflexive pronoun. Another very important reflexive verb is sentirsi, to feel. We've talked about this at the beginning of the video, but the verb sentire normally means to hear, to listen to. But when we make it reflexive, sentirsi, we're totally changing the meaning of that verb. So sentirsi means to feel. For example, ti senti bene? Ti senti bene? Ti senti bene? Do you feel good? Do you feel well? So for example, we could use this sentence when we see a person that is not feeling particularly well. So we ask, ti senti bene? Are you alright? Do you feel good? Do you feel well? And this has nothing to do with your ability of hearing. So we're asking how you feel, now how you hear. And then the last verb that I have for you is divertirsi. Divertirsi, to have fun. Here, the idea of myself does not apply at all. Actually, the verb divertire is used in Italian, but not that much. We just tend to use the reflexive version, divertirsi, and it just means to have fun. So as you can see, there is no direct translation of the verb divertirsi. You have the verb divertire, you make it reflexive, divertirsi, you conjugate it in the reflexive form, and you're just saying, I have fun. So for example, mi diverto, I have fun. Ti diverti, you have fun, and so on. You need to make this verb reflexive, because if you just say diverto or diverti, you're not saying anything. It doesn't mean anything. You need to make it reflexive. So you just need to add a reflexive pronoun in front of the conjugation of the verb divertire. You conjugate it as a normal ire verb, and then you add a reflexive pronoun in front of it. And that's it. Let me give you an example sentence. Ci divertiamo alla festa di Giorgia. Ci divertiamo alla festa di Giorgia. In this case, we are saying, we have fun at Giorgia's party. Ci divertiamo alla festa di Giorgia. Alright, we are done for today's video and I hope it helped. Now it's your turn to write some sentences down below in the comments using reflexive verbs. I will make sure to check them and give you some corrections if needed. And also don't forget to check out my website teacherstefano.com for more educational content and my newsletter. If you like this video, don't forget to give it a like and subscribe to my channel if you want to see more. I'm going to see you in the next video. Ci vediamo nel prossimo video. Ciao!